Look, I would not direct my Justice Department like this president does. I'd let them make their independent.
We have to establish the principle, no one is above the law. We have a constitutional responsibility, and we need to meet it.
The question is about experience. Let's also talk about judgment. One of the foreign leaders you mentioned meeting was Bashar al-Assad. I have, in my experience, such as it is, whether you think it counts or not, since it wasn't accumulated in Washington, enough judgment that I would not have sat down with a murderous dictator.
Welcome to Roundtable Decision. I am your host, Wyatt Berkenoff, and for today's video we're going to talk about the Democratic debates. Well, more of a recap of the Democratic debates. And last night I decided to do something a little bit different than what I've done before, and that is live tweet during the debates. And obviously that made it a lot more fun, and I wish I would have done it during the other 4 debates instead of wondering what time I was going to go to bed. But as a whole, I decided I would start with some of my tweets and what I was thinking throughout the night. And the first question I kind of had when going into the debate was who was going to get the first 4 questions. And the first 4 questions went to Warren, Bernie, Pete, and Klobuchar. And I wasn't really surprised when Warren and Bernie got the first questions. And Pete was more of the front-runner candidate when going into the debate. And what I mean by front-runner candidate is he gained a lot of support and a lot of unexpected support when going into the debate as a whole. And a lot of questions when going into the debate and articles I read in my video before the debate started were talking about if Pete was going to be able to take this debate and win the debate as a whole. And go forward from his candidacy and maybe outdo Warren, Bernie, and let's not forget Joe Biden. Another big question I had was when was Yang Gang, or Mr. Andrew Yang, going to be able to speak? And obviously throughout these retweets, I sent out a recent one of who will speak first, Yang or Tulsi. Because both of these candidates I thought were in lower tier, and I wasn't sure who was actually going to be able to speak first. And that was a legitimate question I had when going into debate. And Tulsi ended up getting the chance to be able to speak first. And later on, that brought up me giving a poll on when I thought people would think that Yang would get a chance to speak in the debate, despite moderators believing that they would have equal time throughout the whole debate. And as I was going through live tweeting and everything, I saw that Donald Trump Jr., which is obviously Mr. Trump's son, tweeted out a live tweet at the moment about Joe Biden. And obviously we've all known Joe Biden as being the person who is a little bit creepy when it comes to younger women. But he also has been stumbling a lot and most notably in his debates. And he's also said some absurd, very weird comments as well, including the later comment in the debate when he said that the way to combat woman assault or women's rights is to keep punching at the issue. And he said that multiple times. But this video was rather interesting, as you can clearly see that Mr. Joe Biden himself was struggling to pronounce the words. And a lot of people worry about people's health. And health becomes a big issue when you're especially older within the candidacy for running for president. And it's always been a huge issue. It's why during Roosevelt's plan, when he was in the wheelchair, they did a lot of things to try to combat that issue and to keep the public from not knowing that he was crippled in the way he was. And that brings me to another point after I play this video.
Work with you. Well, look, the next president of the United States can have to do 2 things. Defeat Donald Trump, that's number 1. And number 2, going to have to be able to go into states like Georgia. Work with you.
And later he talked about going to states like Georgia and win the votes there, as they are states that are vitally important for that Democratic candidate to win. But that wasn't the big issue of showing that video. That brings me to another point that many people, and this is in New York Post, are worried about Amy Klobuchar shaking. So she was very visually shaken during the debates. And I had a tweet when I was live tweeting within the debate where you could visibly see her hair shaking as she's speaking. And she almost seemed to be grabbing onto the podium to like give her clarity, or give her, where she wasn't have her hand shaking so it wasn't too visible within that area. And it obviously was noted by a lot of people, as you can see through their article. Senator Amy Klobuchar raised eyebrows during Wednesday's primary debate when she appeared to be shaken as she answered questions. Some viewers were concerned for the 59-year-old Minnesota lawmaker, and others were just plain distracted by her apparent vibrating. Klobuchar has been very visibly shaking all night. She effing okay? Tweeted Louis YT, which I assume is Young Turks, but don't quote me on that. Another person in this article said, "Why is Amy so shaky? Is she really nervous?" Added another Twitter user, "Klobuchar is literally shaking. I'm worried about her health." One user said the lawmaker was like a human vibrator. So obviously you could tell that a lot of people, as they've been quoting tweets, could visibly see Tulsi shaking within the debate stage. And again, that brings up to the health question that I had going into the debate. And I didn't have her on the list to worry about. I had Bernie, Joe, and even Warren herself, as they're both older candidates. And health has been a huge issue within the presidency because it is an extremely stressful job. And that brings up to the tweet I talked about earlier, is when was Yang going to be able to hear his voice, or when we were going to hear him speak? And it turned out that it was in the first column. And it was 32 minutes into the debate is when we heard Yang speak himself. And it was rather interesting. And another quick point from watching the debates and the general thought I had is that Yang seems to be the most legitimate person out of anyone on the stage. He comes across as being very gentleman and has a very odd sense of humor, what I think works with the crowd more than a Kamala Harris type of humor works. Kamala Harris did have a couple lines that seemed to have the crowd kind of clapping and happy for her in the line she made, and kind of got a rally cry towards that. But I think as a whole, Kamala Harris seems to struggle with that. And again, you can see my tweet during the live with Amy shaking, as I said with the hair thing earlier. So another big point I was watching for when going into the debate was speaking time. And this was a huge point for me because the debates always promise that there will be equal speaking time between all candidates. And a lot of candidates, especially lower tier candidates, especially candidates like Tulsi Gabbard, will claim that the establishment Democrats are trying to censor what she is saying because they don't want her to win, because she is not the ideal Democratic candidate. And this can be seen through her tweet later on, which I'll pull up, about what she thinks that establishment media was trying to do with their speaking time. And that is essentially just not letting her have as much speaking time. But the first 45 minutes of the debate went to Warren at 5 minutes and 30 seconds of speaking time, followed by Biden at 5 minutes and 8 seconds, followed by Sanders at 4 minutes and 52 seconds, followed by Buttigieg at 4.11, and last were Andrew Yang at 1.06, and Tom Sawyer, the newest Democratic candidate, at 1.31. And on Tom Sawyer, while we're talking about it, I knew he was able to enter the race, but a lot of people were generally angry that someone like Sawyer was able to enter, but not Julian Castro, who didn't get enough qualifications to enter in the debate. A lot of people were mad that Tulsi Gabbard was able to get in the debate, but not Julian Castro as a whole. But that is a whole nother sub-point, which doesn't really relate to the debate as much as others. So after the debate continued, I talked about other things such as the pay gap, what came up, which I don't think is really as huge of an issue as many people believe it to be. And then I wanted to talk about another issue within it, and that is essentially the second speaking time which was allowed in debate, which I'll pull up here. So the New York Times tweeted a lot throughout the debate stage. So And then brings me to the next point, which I briefly mentioned before, and that is Tulsi Gabbard and what she claimed to be unpopular support for her campaign. And she tweeted out this photo of speaking time during the whole debate. So this is whole speaking time, how many candidates spoke through the whole remainder of the hours. And Elizabeth Warren was at the top with 13.4, with Buttigieg right behind her at 12.8, followed by Sanders at 11.8, followed by Booker and Harris at 11.5s. And then last were Yang, Tom Sawyer, and Gabbard. And Tulsi Gabbard claimed that this was unfair. And I'll pull up her tweet to show exactly from her words what she stated was unfair with the issue. And then I'll talk about another point of Tulsi Gabbard. So here's her tweet here. So much for the promise of equal time for candidates at Andrew Yang. Got half the time as usual media favorites. Typical. So that was what Tulsi tweeted. And another thing, as I was live tweeting and following the debates, a lot of people seem to think that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset or a Russian agent or somebody who is for Russia. And at first I thought this was more of playful Twitter hoax commentary, but a lot of the people seem to be tweeting this multiple times, and following their profile pages and reading through some of their tweets, they seem to legitimately believe that Tulsi is a Russian asset, as Hillary Clinton claimed during the fourth debate stage. Well, not on the debate stage, but before the debate stage. Is everyone noticing that, and this is reading from a Twitter page called Lisa Talmage, and I'm sorry I butchered that name, and that responded by Kate. And it says, is everyone noticing that Tulsi the Putin puppet only attacks Kamala Harris? And then Kate responds, that's her job. And this is followed by another tweet from Tara Dublin, who, let me add, has a verified profile, and she states, when you let Tulsi speak, and this hashtag let Tulsi speak was trending when I woke up today and at number 1, and at the time of recording the video it still is number 1 on trending on Twitter as I read the tweet in whole. When you hashtag let Tulsi speak on a hashtag dim debate stage, you are giving another one of hashtag Putin puppets a chance to spread his propaganda. Hashtag buy Tulsi, hashtag Tulsi bot, hashtag Thursday dots. And this was in response to another tweet which said, maybe you should start by renouncing Assad. Maybe you should stop appearing on the Tucker Carlson show. Maybe you should stop claiming you are a Democrat, at Tulsi Gabbard. So this got me generally thinking about why people seem to be so much against Tulsi Gabbard. And I think that the leftist Democrat doesn't like Tulsi Gabbard because she doesn't really fit into party lines. Like, I think the average Republican during the first part of Trump's campaign wasn't in favor of Trump because he didn't fit into what the Republican Party had defined as being their average or their standard candidate, such as like Hillary Clinton was in last presidential election. But you get what I'm kind of saying. I don't think she fits into the mold what the leftist Democrat in this case want to happen, or what the average Democrat even might want to happen. Because I think a lot of people see Tulsi as more of an independent candidate, let alone a Republican candidate, which I saw a lot in Twitter going from there. But this brings me to the final point, and the person who I thought might have won the debate, and that was the article headline we started with: who won the 5th Democratic debate? And this is from 538. For anyone who likes politics or wants to follow live politic results from elections or just general political insight, I really do like 538. They were one of the more accurate websites for polling during Trump's campaign, and they were quite accurate within their articles as well. So I was interested to see who they thought might have won. From watching the debate, my winners were Buttigieg and That's really it. I think Buttigieg most won the debate as a whole, as I thought he had the strongest stance when going in and seemed to back his issues the most. I do think that the Buttigieg exchange with Gabbard lost him a lot of voters within the more moderate issue, or more people who don't identify with either party, as Buttigieg attacked her when she claimed about that meeting with political adversaries is a good idea, and Buttigieg fired back that isn't a good idea, and Tulsi went back and kind of seemed to have Buttigieg a little shooken up within the debate stage. But I'm unsure if that really did have an effect from the average Democratic voter, as I do think that the average Democratic voter, or at least the left Democratic voter, will be on Buttigieg's side with the issue of reading with foreign adversaries such as Kim Jong-un and other largely bad people out there. So, according to their debate performance scale that 538 put out, they had their top 3 winners as Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Cory Booker. See, I think Cory Booker could be a number 2 for me as far as the winner of who I thought had the strongest performance on the debate stage. But, and this is just my bias towards the debates, I really can't stand Cory Booker and what he tries to do within every debate and what he tries to do. I think he tries to use his race as being a black man to his advantage in a pandering way. And what I mean by that is, by saying that you're black and you get black people, and that you are black and you get black people, so black people should vote you because you're black because you get black people because you are black, is in some way probably true. But saying that and then saying a story right after, similar to what Warren likes to do with her stories, seems to be more pandering in my view. And maybe I'm the only person who thinks that, but it rather gets under my skin that is what his strategy tends to be, instead of trying to persuade people with his actual policies. Then they had another chart up about who gained support and who lost support. And I thought it was rather interesting, as they had Bernie Sanders lose a percentage point in the actual debate stage. Well, a little less than percentage point. Excuse me. Before the debate, they had him at 40%, and after the debate, they had him at 39%. So they had him losing support, obviously. And everyone else gained support after the debate. And the biggest one I thought was Tom Sawyer, who they had at 3.8, and now they have at 5.4. And being a new candidate as Tom Sawyer was, that is quite a big jump from just one debate. And then they have this popularity content, and obviously there's more charts you can look at, but that was the main ones I wanted to pull up, because they had a lot of the talk points. And I wanted to end my video with this last one. The debate in recap seemed to be a large part of Orange Man Bad, and how are we going to beat Trump, and talking bad about Trump in every way. The focus was largely over Trump himself instead of policy issues. And I think if these Democratic voters are Democratic candidates, more like, want to advance to the next rounds, we need to start hearing more about her policy. And I thought for sure that Warren's Medicare for All plan, what she released in full, would get attacked by someone on the debate stage. But it was a rather ignored issue. As the whole debate, although it was more fuller than other debates, still seemed to leave a lot of holes within actual policy from the debate stage. And I think this is a common trend I've seen on debate stages, staring back from last presidential election, where I paid extra close attention. I think all the debates tend to be going towards a pathos or emotion charge based approach, instead of a factual, more evidence-based approach. And I think that this isn't really going to change. And I think that that's why Warren always likes to tell her stories. She likes to give a pathos-charged debate instead of a logos or evidence-based charge for how she plans to do her plans and how she plans to not only win against her candidates, but win against Trump. She wants to win through emotions instead of win through her policy and win through what she has as her plans. As she says, I have a plan, I have a plan, I have a plan. But like Trump did in the last presidential election, she doesn't really tell you what's in the plan. She just tells you she has one. Thank you for watching and hope you will come back for more.